And original Buddhism, for me, is a very simple thing. Original Buddhism is essentially the experience that the Buddha had on his night of awakening, roughly 2,500 years ago. That is essentially what original Buddhism is. And everything else, pretty much, is traditional Buddhism. But more precisely, what we mean by traditional Buddhism is the type of Buddhism that you find in any particular time, at any particular place, wherever you go in the world. That is what I would call traditional Buddhism. And of course, this traditional Buddhism includes all those various types of Buddhism that you find in the various countries. And the reason why we get this traditional Buddhism is for two reasons. And the first thing is that over time, the original Buddhism of the Buddha tends to change. This is just the nature of how things are, nature of impermanence. That's the first reason. Change just happens all by itself, pretty much. And the second reason is that as Buddhism spreads to different countries, different cultures, different places, it tends to take on some of the flavor of that culture wherever it goes. And by doing that, it becomes, gradually it changes, and it's no longer exactly what it was originally when the whole thing started out at the time of the Buddha, if you like. And this is, for me, is a very important point to actually reflect on the fact that Buddhism changes, that it takes on some of the connotations and colors and the ways of doing things of any particular country. Because what that means, the reason why that happens is, of course, that that country's culture exerts an influence on Buddhism. And as Buddhism accepts some of the standards of that particular country, it adapts to that culture and it becomes more viable in that particular society. If it didn't adapt, if it was too rigid, it would probably be much less viable in that particular society. And this is important for us also here in Australia, or indeed anywhere in the world, because unless there is some sense of adaptation, some sense of falling in line with the view of Australian society or the society anywhere, I think that will weaken Buddhism in the long run. It won't strengthen it because it will become much more difficult for it to be integrated into that society into which it has arrived.